Yo, 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 ladies and gentlemen, let's take a dive into President Trump as it relates to the Epstein files. Now, this is a hot topic, and it is, I think, maybe on a lower level, maybe, whatever is trying to divide MAGA. But, ladies and gentlemen, let me remind you that this is nothing more than another trick from the Democrats. How in the world do you think that the Department of Justice and the Attorney General is going to prosecute these people by releasing this information to the public? If you're going to spray the roaches, why in the hell would you let them know that you're coming with the spray? That is crazy. So I am with the president 100%. I always have been, always will. I know who sent him. And the president, although I don't agree with every single thing he has said or done, but in retrospect, just about everything that I can remember that he said, as weird or as boisterous as it was when he said it, it all turned out to be true. So I respect the president. I know he knows what he's doing. I don't believe that I have the same information that he has. I think he and his staff have way more information. They know what the hell is going on. I think we have one shot to get this right. We have to clean these people out. And I just made a video a few minutes ago about Obama. Obama has been just about indicted almost, but there's a referral for him to be indicted. And so President Trump is not playing. And I think he's starting at the top with Obama, and I think he's just going to trickle on down. And I think this is what we've been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. But I don't think that President Trump can get sucked in on this Epstein mess. And if you're a Democrat or whoever you are, or a Republican or independent or whatever, and you believe that President Trump is on the list or has something to do with that, then you stupid as hell anyway, right? If President Trump had done anything and been on the list with Epstein or done anything and it was a pedophile, the Democrats would have played that card years ago. Why would they let him get back in that White House and now he's in power? He can actually release the list. But I think the Democrats are up to some bullshit, just like they always are. They're the ones screaming for it. And when the media is screaming and hollering, you can bet your sweet bippies that we need to go the other way. But anyway, let's talk about that for a little while. Check it out.
President Trump having no public events on this Sunday, but gearing up for a busy week. Also, as President Trump's administration has asked a federal court to unseal secret documents related to Jeffrey Epstein's case in an effort to put to rest for good a political crisis that has truly evolved. People within his own party, the Republican.
Check out what she just said. The president has asked them to release the files, but he still has to go by the court of law. And that's what he's doing. And you know President Trump always goes by the law. Despite what you hear on the news and all that, President Trump is 1, 2, 3, 4. He always goes by the law. That's why he always wins. He doesn't give them anything that they can get him on. He has asked the courts to release those files. He has nothing to hide. But the courts, if they're going to prosecute, why would they release? What do they call that? When they have their indictments, they can't release that information. They have to. They can't do that. But anyway, we got a lot to talk about on this one. Check it out.
Republican Party split on the Epstein case. Now, here's a look at the ongoing controversy about all of this, that President Trump has now announced that he will be seeking a federal court to unseal secret documents this coming after the Justice Department said last week that it would not release any more evidence about the sex trafficking investigation into Epstein, that very latest development.
And what about the people that's innocent? What about the people that's involved, the children and all of that? They can't release the files. Come on, man. The grand jury and all that stuff, you can't release that stuff like that and just put it out in the public. These people got to go to trial, man. And we don't want no problems with the law and nobody being able to get off on a technicality. But we got a gentleman coming up in just a minute who's going to explain this.
There as well. And also, we wanted to let you know that President Trump has now filed a lawsuit involving Jeffrey Epstein, filing a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street.
See, I bet you didn't know that. President Trump has already filed a lawsuit against these people. He's trying to get it done, but he has to follow the law.
Street Journal and media mogul Rupert Murdoch on Friday after the newspaper published a story reporting his ties to Epstein. That move came shortly after the Justice Department asked.
Now, what happened? The fake news has already published some mess and said that President Trump wrote a letter, and they found the letter in the files that President Trump indicted himself, something that is just a mess, but you know it's a lie. The media, how the hell do they know, right? And so they trying to put this mess out in the streets and trying to do nothing more than what they've been doing, divide America. And I'm telling you, MAGA, hang tough and let the president do his job. Everything is going to be okay. You know damn well President Trump ain't had nothing to do with no damn Jeffrey Epstein.
A federal court to unseal grand jury transcripts in Epstein's sex trafficking case. Now, the controversy has created a divide between President Trump and his base, including some of his most vocal supporters who have said that they want those documents made public. President Trump had promised to sue the Wall Street Journal almost immediately after the article that was published, including a description of a suggestive letter that the newspaper says bore President Trump's name and was included in a 2003 album compiled for Epstein's 50th birthday. President Trump denied writing that letter, calling the story false, malicious, and defamatory. And also of note, the Wall Street Journal does share common ownership with Fox. Fox has not independently confirmed the truth of the Wall Street Journal's reporting. For more on the potential political fallout, I do want to bring in the CEO of J.N. Washington political firm, David Washington. And as always, we appreciate you taking the time to join us here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's good to be back.
You know, the Epstein files has created a lot of controversy, across the political spectrum, but also within the Republican Party itself. In terms of potential impact, how significant is this moment right now?
It's very significant for Trump because this is Donald Trump at his lowest with this particular investigation. However, CNN recently had a poll of Republicans who find over 90% that they believe that President Trump and his administration are doing extremely well. So if are any cracks in this base, at this point, they're minimal. However, this is a very important topic.
And we have yet to see whether, the court will release the grand jury documents. Of course, there are considerations of confidentiality, especially when it comes to the victims involved in this case. From a political standpoint, is it better for these documents to be released or not to be released? Not
to be. That's common sense. Anybody with half a brain know that. But I appreciate you asking. It doesn't do any good to release those documents. These people need to be prosecuted and let it come out in court, not in the news media. Just throw it out in the street and let everybody. That's crazy. Where the hell they do that at?
That is yet to be determined. But taking a look at it from that political perspective, what are your thoughts on that?
I have 2 points to make specifically about this. I believe that grand jury testimony evidence should remain confidential.
That's exactly what I was trying to say just a few minutes ago. Grand jury testimony is what I was trying to say. a few minutes ago, and I agree with this young man wholeheartedly. I think that should be private.
Should remain secretive based on the rules and laws that we have abided by for years in regards to grand jury testimony. We should not cross this line. That's number one. Number two, doing research into this, I think there's much more for our government to look into, specifically Senator Ron Wyden's request of the Attorney General Pam Bondi and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent in releasing those so-called Treasury Epstein files to the FBI, to Attorney General Bondi, and find out where did this money come from to have this sex trafficking operation network operate under Jeffrey Epstein.
Yes, indeed. See, it's a lot of work to be done on this Epstein stuff. Where did the money go? Who paid? Who did what? Right? I agree with Mr. Washington 100%. You don't release this stuff out to the public and have these people shake these people up and they're aware of what's going on. Right? These people are under investigation and it needs to stay sealed and let the Department of Justice do what they need to do.
Financial trail. Why was there so much money transferred from Jeffrey Epstein's accounts to sanctioned banks overseas? I think that's where the real story's at.
This suddenly erupted, and a lot of the focus happened to be on Attorney General Pam Bondi, stating that the file was on her desk. She said that her comments were taken out of context, and now there's been a lot of back and forth. President Trump continues to be a staunch supporter of Attorney General Bondi, but where do you see that relationship going, and how does one move forward? How does the administration move forward? How does Attorney General Bondi move forward? In fact, last week, she was talking about a major drug bust with cartels, and the question about Jeffrey Epstein was brought up. She steered it back to the topic on hand, but it keeps coming up. So how does the administration, how do these particular individuals move forward with this still evolving?
Attorney General Bondi, the rest of the administration, President Trump, in particular, they're going to keep moving forward. They're going to keep moving forward with their agenda, and this is going to continue to come up and dog the president for the rest of his presidency until people in his base, people who have supported him on the peripheral, and those who have not supported the president get the answers that they want. They're going to move forward. It's as if, it's not a big deal, as the president has said in so many words. Move forward. There's nothing here. There's nothing to see. Let's move forward. And I believe that's the plan. I think that is the plan that the president has.
And we've seen the divide within the Republican Party, those who continue to support President Trump. But then you also see a splinter adamant about the release of these files. Where does the repair come in if these files are not released?
It's those campaign promises that President Trump himself have said, hey, we're going to get to the bottom of this and we're going to release the Jeffrey Epstein files. And to take your question that much more seriously, it is something that is hard to maneuver. And I don't know. I honestly do not know what this entails for the Republicans moving into the midterms. The Democrats, of course, are going to hit the administration, Donald Trump, over and over. All his supporters, those endorsed by Trump, they're going to hit and hit and hit them during the midterm elections. And what the public takes from it, if Donald Trump continues to have the wins that he has, I think it's going to overshadow the Epstein files controversy.
And you bring up a really important point with the midterm elections. A fact is very different from public perception. sometimes public perception, whether it's true or not, can be more powerful than facts itself. As we look ahead, though, you were mentioning, if President Trump continues to make progress and make good on these campaign promises, that will overshadow all of this. Is this just a blip in the radar, or could you see this make a significant impact when it comes to the midterm elections?
I think the president will take the mic and simply explain everything in detail and let the people know that legally, from a legal standpoint, that this is not the correct move to release that information to the public. And if you are the public, I think if you use your brain, you can just about figure out who is on the list. The people that scream the loudest, that's been screaming, they're on the list. And I think I saw it, 7, 8 years ago. I can just about tell you who is on there. And you can figure that out for yourself. All those leftoids, the screaming and hollering, where's Rosie and Ellen DeGeneres and Steve Harvey and D.L. Hughley and all these people that screaming the loudest, they on there. You bet your sweet bippies. What's his name? Springsteen and all them. If they coming to the mic and saying that President Trump this ain't this and that, you can put them on the list. And then just go on about your business. But I would rather see these people get prosecuted and sent to prison where they belong instead of reading the list and spoiling everything and having these people get off on a technicality. And this young man right here, I've never heard of him today, but I guarantee you I'll be following him. Very smart individual, and he is on top of it. But anyway, let's wrap this up.
First, I saw it, and I'll be honest, I saw it as a blip on the radar. And then I did my research more into this because I had pretty much, after reading Julie K. Brown's Miami Herald expose on this whole controversy years ago, I thought, okay, let's move on. However, with Senator Wyden's request for the Treasury Secretary to release files to the AG and the FBI, there's more to see. And I've stopped listening very closely to a lot of the politicians, including Donald Trump, and starting watching what they do and how they act and react to news like this. There's a lot at stake in 2026. There's a lot at stake right now. However, justice for those young women who have been victims in this particular issue, and anyone who has been a victim of sex trafficking, this has to come to a head. Answers need to be made.
Yes, sir. And that is way more important than the general public being nosy as hell. This needs to be taken care of. And I support the president 100%. And again, if you dumb enough to think that President Trump is on the list or has anything to do with pedophilia and all that crazy stuff, then you crazy as hell anyway, jackass. But anyway, I'm your host, Big Al, UncleCoon. Appreciate you dropping in. Hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop us a comment, and we will catch you on the next one. Peace. Can't touch this.
Real deal. Post that gal on the mic, UncleCoon in the house. Drop the knowledge, stay true, no room for doubt. From the mates to celebs, we cover it all. Tune in, hit subscribe, you don't wanna miss the call. Real deal. Al, UncleCoon, bringing the heat. Every episode's fire, can't be beat. Hit that like, share the vibe. Join the fam, come along for the ride. Politics, pop culture, and everything between. Big Al's got the scoop, you know what I mean? From Harris to Trump, we break it down. Common sense talk, the best show around. Real Al, UncleCoon, bringing the heat. Every episode's fire, can't be beat. Hit that like, share the vibe. Join the fam, come along for the ride. Jeff, show some love, support the grind. Big Al's on the rise, one of a kind. UncleCoon podcast, the place to be for real talk, real folks, and real TV. Real Gal, UncleCoon, bringing the heat. Every episode's fire, can't be beat. Hit that like, share the vibe. Join the fam, come along for the ride.